Hey guys, my name is Manic and welcome back to Mastering EDM with FL Studio. So today's video is going to be on something nifty called automation. And what we're going to do here is we're going to learn how to get settings to change as our track plays. So it's kind of interesting thing there. Instead of just tweaking something and setting it to a certain position and leaving it, like choosing where you want the volume of something to be and then just dropping it there for the entire track, we're actually going to learn how to get things to change as the track plays. And there's some pretty interesting stuff you could do with this. 1 second here, let's reset that, and I'll show you the ins and outs of some of the stuff we could do here. So what we're gonna do, actually this is a new project, just wanted to kind of show you here. Pretty simple, we have a drum and an arpeggio and then a bass, so you kind of listen to it. And then of course in the corner here we still have FL Chan. New project here. This one's a lot better than the last one. It actually has some sense to it. What we're going to do is we're going to take this track, the arpeggio, and we're going to take it and make it so it's completely muted, and then bring it up to its full volume here. Throughout the track, we're actually going to make it so it doesn't stay at one volume. It actually changes the volume. So just so you know which track I'm talking about, I'll play this again, and you can take a listen. So it already sounds like it's fading in and out, but that's kind of because of the way it was designed. So what we're going to do actually now is we're going to take this part here, and you can see it's down on this track here, and if we look at the right mixer track, this one's routed to 5, so that means it's going to be right here. Just the way we can kind of connect all these things together and see where everything goes. So we're going to take this one here, and we're going to right click it and hit Create Automation Clip, and then we'll get this nice straight line across our entire project. So if I play this back, it won't do anything. You could already see here. It's not really changing anything. Nothing new. But what I can do is grab these 2 points at the end and I could change it around. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a point here and a point here. And you notice that it doesn't snap to the previous value. So we're going to have to keep that in mind. And instead of snapping, what we could actually do is right click it and hit copy value, and then go through here and paste the values. I'm just right clicking, hitting P to do that shortcut there. So we have these 1, 2, 3, 4 points over here, and we could have put another one right here, but I'm not going to worry about that. So because what we're going to do is we're going to fade it in kind of a predictable way. So what I'm going to do right off the bat is, if you notice, this is these are all set to the value it was at before, because that's what it defaults to when you create the clip. So what I'm going to do is take the first point and bring it all the way down, and you'll notice that it already moved this all the way down, and then I'm going to take the second point and move it all the way down. So what happens now is it stays completely muted all the way up till here, and then it starts to increase. And actually, if you watch this fader here as we play this back, you'll see it just does just that. So that is pretty cool. I mean, if you didn't know how to do this before, it is definitely something that you probably want to use in a lot of your productions, because it adds variety throughout the track and makes it so you know, you're not just jumping around so much, and you can actually transition a bit better. So a lot of automation is used for transitions more than anything else. Most of the time you'll see whenever there's like a build or something, there's some form of automation there. So yeah, it's a very important tool, and I strongly suggest you use it wherever you can. You probably already have some ideas how you could use this, but I want to show you one other quick technique here that's actually rather helpful. If you have a parameter, sometimes you'll go into a synthesizer or something, and you want to change one of these, and if you right click it, it actually won't have the Create Automation Clip. This will happen if you're using something like Sylenth or Massive. They don't have that built into their context menu. So instead, we use something else in FL Studio, and that is, you know what? We'll do some automation for the bass next. So what I'm going to do is we have the bass here selected, and that's going to show us right here is where the notes are. So it's going to be routed to track 6. So we go to Insert 6 here. That's the volume. So we're going to do the volume automation again, but instead of hitting create automation clip, I'm going to do something different, and this is very, very useful. If you move this around, it doesn't matter what you move it around to, but you just move it around, and then you go up to, here we go, let's see, Tools, Last Tweaked, and Create Automation Clip. So what this does is it takes the last parameter you changed, and it makes a automation clip for that. And there we go, same thing as before. And what I could do is I could create some automation points here. I'm going to actually make this one fade in earlier. So we're going to put a point here, and then we're going to put, we're just going to leave, we're going to let this run from the bottom here. So okay, so we're going to pull this one all the way down, pull this one all the way down, copy the value of this one by hitting C, and then pasting it here with P. And then we could do this. Now I do want to remind you guys that you don't just have to do this on volume. I just chose volume because it's the easiest thing to demonstrate, because you could watch these faders and see them move around. And it makes it very easy to tell what's going on. So, so that's why I chose these ones, but you could go into pretty much any setting in any of these. Actually, not pretty much any setting. You could go into any setting of any of these and do the exact same thing. And you just create an automation clip for just about anything in all these. And once again, external instruments as well, you could do that. And you could even go inside these samplers, I believe, and you could do the exact same thing with all these parameters in the samplers as well. So you could do some really interesting stuff with those. So now before I wrap up this video, I do want to show you one other really cool thing, and that is, you probably noticed in between each dot, so we have a dot here that we can move, a dot here that we can move, and if we go to here, it changes the pointer. So you'll notice this is a little hand that's grabbing the point, and this one is actually an arrow that goes up and down. So this is a really cool thing, and it's very helpful for kind of changing the way that these parameters change over time. Excuse the confusion there, but you'll see what happens when I click and drag this up. It makes it go like that, and if I drag it down, it does the opposite. So what do these actually really mean? That's actually probably the most important thing here, especially when I show you some of the other more interesting versions of this that you could actually switch between. What this does is it brings it up rather fast at first, and then kind of slowly tapers off and gradually restores the volume to full volume. So we'll show you how that works here. You'll watch it'll move up rather fast, and it'll kind of slow down. So select the right insert 6, and watch this one. And it slows down. That one just kind of goes up gradually at the same pace. So that's the difference. And by way of sound, you just have to keep an ear out for that. And once again, the opposite direction is it just gradually increases and then quickly increases. So we'll do that. Very gradually increasing, and then speeding up until it hits the maximum volume. So once again, like I said, I can't really tell you when you would use all these. This is just going to be something to where you're going to listen. You're going to need to listen. It's just create automation here, and then well, after you create the automation, you can listen with it, boost it up like this or down like this, and when you right-click this, just so you know, it restores it to default value. So that's an easy way to get back. So now we have this other thing here. If you click on the first point, you'll notice it doesn't have these other options available. And the reason is because, if we click on any point, what it does is for the area in front of it, it changes the curve type. So you'll notice this is single curve, and if we set it to single curve 2, we could change it slightly differently. So it moves this bump more towards the end. I'll show you how that goes. Single curve. And there we go. So it just kind of changes the type, how harsh it is. So so its default is single curve, and once again we could change this, but there are some more interesting ones here. So if we go to double curve, we get this sort of S shape which goes up quickly, hangs out around here, for a while, just gradually increasing, and then it shoots up. So that's a very fun one to use. And if you push it up, it goes tighter like that. But if you bring it down, it reverses its direction and it goes up gradually until it shoots up and then levels off. So once again, very fun things you could do with that. And before I wrap this up, you can kind of see there are a few other options here. So we have half sine, and what this one allows us to do is just kind of taper it off slightly. So it only does the graduated stuff right here, and when we bring it down right here, otherwise it's pretty much linear. So it's a lot smoother way. And then we have stairs, which is actually not going to be easy to see until I start moving this up. And you can see it kind of makes it bump up. So we could show you how this sounds. This is actually kind of interesting. So it kind of bumps it up, and you could change the frequency by moving it up or down, and kind of hear that little staircase sound. Kind of just sounds like it's fading in for this one though. So, and then we're gonna do the smooth stairs, which is rather similar, but it's kind of lumpy instead of just bumping it. So it makes a lot more sense, and it kind of gradually changes this sort of staircase thing, but still gives you a lot of options for variety. And then we'll do pulse. This is personally one of my favorite. So it starts out, actually we'll reset this to default. You can kind of see it looks very, weird. So if we pull this up once again, I've just been pulling it up most of the time, just so you know, then we could actually reduce the frequency until it becomes something we can actually see what's going on. And what this allows us to do is bump up the volume, in this case, since we're automating the volume, for a period of time, and then cut it back down. Now, once again, this is determined by this particular point. So that's how we determine how high we're going to go. So we're going to paste the original value back in there. And I'll just, scroll this down to, how about around here? I think this is how I want it. So you kind of see what's going on there. It cuts out. If you look at the note, it plays one of the notes. It doesn't play the first note, but it plays the next note because the volume is up right here, and that lines up with there. And the next note, it does not play because it's all the way down, and so forth, and so on and so forth. And once again, if we move this out, it'll behave differently because we have changed it. Doesn't play the first two, plays the next two. So that's a really cool thing. I wish Logic Pro had that. I use Logic Pro a lot, and I really wish it had some of these cooler automation types. So, and I believe that is almost that's it. But we have wave here, which is kind of like a triangle waveform, if you've ever seen that. So instead of just having it go kind of like lumpy, like a sine wave, I believe we don't actually have a sine wave here. Interesting. But you could actually have it here, so it goes up and then goes down, goes up and then goes down, and you could just change how often it happens. Once again, scrolling it up always makes it so it's wider, and scrolling it down always makes it so it's faster or smaller, however you want to look at it. So, so that's how you change these. But yeah, really cool stuff you could do with automation here, and my favorite ones are the regular curves, and then I often do use the double curve as well. And this one in FL Studio, I really like the pulse. The pulse is pretty cool as well. So those are my favorites, but just use whatever you feel like you want to use for a particular project. And you can do some very interesting things with this. It just kind of depends what you end up applying it to. So I did want to mention one thing before I take off here, and that is some people have been kind of saying, I can't wait till you get some more advanced stuff in this series. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not a wizard at FL Studio. Actually, most of my skill and expertise is in Logic because I've used that so much longer than I've used FL Studio. I do know the basics of FL Studio though, and so I kind of wanted to pass those along to some of the people that have never opened a digital audio workstation and they don't really know what's going on. So, so I figured I'd start at FL Studio for those people, but I may get into some advanced things, but I highly doubt it just because I don't know a lot of the ins and outs of FL Studio. So, so yeah, and then there are a couple other tips and tricks you can learn around here. If you hold Control and move something, you kind of actually this is Alt. I'm holding Alt, and you'll notice I can slide along without it snapping. And otherwise, what it does is it snaps. So And then if we hold control and drag, whoops, never mind, hold drag and then control, what happens is it won't move back and forth, but it'll move up and down. And once again, shift and drag allows us to not move up and down, but move left and right. And if we hold shift and alt, it allows us to slide with precision there. Once again, so you can do more high precision stuff. Alt is for sliding it without it snapping. Control, you have to hold, you have to click this first and hold control. Doesn't let it move side to side, but it lets you move up and down. And shift lets you move side to side, but not up and down. So just kind of reiterate. So that's some fun stuff there. And as you probably saw, the automation clips work very similar to the way that all these loops work. So if I paste another one here and then change something here, it changes both. So just keep that in mind. If you want to have a different section of automation, you can actually right click something and then hit create another automation clip, and you will have two automation clips for the same thing. My suggestion is don't overlap them, just put them like that end to end. And what it'll allow you to do is change things kind of around here. So we'll do this. I'm gonna hold shift to lock it in the position. I'm gonna slide this down to this size and move this one over here. Paste my original value. So I have these back. Shift, slide again so it doesn't move up and down. And then this time I'm going to actually, you know what, I'm gonna drag this one all the way down, change the type to, how about we do a wave? That'll be interesting, and we'll scale it up until it gets to whatever size I want. I think I'll make it kind of like this. This will be nice and interesting. So when we play this back, we have two different automation sections, and they do this. So that's some of the stuff you could do with automation. Once again, there's a lot more fancy things you could do with that. You could go into all of your different synthesizers and choose any parameter and automate that as well, which gives you a lot of flexibility, and you could do some really awesome stuff with it. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the next video.